Well, it wouldn't be a webinar without a little bit of technical difficulties, right? So, all right, let's move on. Yeah. Okay, so let's get into it quickly here because we wasted about 5 minutes with that, so we're going to jump right in. So the agenda for today, we're going to be looking at things in a bit of a flow. So I'm going to try to have this have a logical flow so that you're able to retain the information that we're trying to provide, and then see how it's then used. Later on, as we're entering information, entering data, you can see how that data is then used to track and manage your deadlines and your staff and your projects. So first, we're going to be looking at the concept of assigning staff to jobs and managing those jobs, and more so the assignments at the start and management a little bit later. This is really for those individuals that may have a lot of jobs coming in and out often, or perhaps the jobs are very small. And creating schedules or assigning tasks isn't necessary, or perhaps it's just a very small agency, and that's just assigning to the job level accommodates their needs. So we're going to be looking at that first. Should be pretty quick. We're then going to get into scheduling, and we're going to be looking at creating schedules in a few different ways for a few different reasons. I'm going to talk about those reasons and give you real-world examples as to why you might want to do these things. Of course, we're going to be using the new schedule grid. And we're going to be taking a look at that schedule in the new Gantt chart. And I'm going to be showing off, how you can see information in different ways and understand the relationships between, your deadlines and, the deliverables and the different, key items that might be going on in a schedule. From there, we're going to be looking at some custom dashboards that I want to recommend, and these are meant to give you quick and useful insights into where your workload is at the agency, the tasks that are on the go, the jobs that are on the go, where they are in relation to their deadlines and their budgets, and how you can quickly jump back and forth between relevant and useful information of the system. And I'm going to be showing you which tiles to select. So I do recommend anyone that has 2 monitors, follow along, but of course this is going to be recorded so you can always check it out later. We're then going to be looking at managing staff availability and task lists, so understanding how you can see where people's load balance is, what they're working on, what their task list looks like, when their due dates are, and make sure that people are staying on top of things. And then at the end is going to be Tate's portion. So I'm going to hand the presenter back over to Tate, and he's going to be showing us some cool stuff related, and I almost don't want to give it away, but I'm going to. He's going to be showing us a preview of the new task dependency features that are coming into the system very, very soon. And when I say very soon, I mean like in the next couple weeks. So really exciting stuff. I've seen a little bit of myself, and I'm excited to have that shown to everyone that's on the call today. Now that is going to be at the end, so I highly recommend everyone stay on the webinar right till the end, because not only that, but Tate's going to be talking about a few other things as well around what's coming in the next few months, and there's a lot of interest in these types of things. So we're showing you new features that are out today. Regarding the Gantt chart, new features that are upgrades to the Gantt chart around dependencies that are coming in the next couple weeks, and then a preview of what's coming in the next couple months as well. Our development velocity has increased significantly, so we're excited to share this information with you. As I mentioned earlier, Daniel is going to be handling the questions. Now, any questions that we can show on screen, we will to the best of our ability. Anything that needs to be answered offline via email afterwards, we of course will follow up with you and provide you with those answers. And what I'd recommend is that any questions you have around kind of future functionality or changes or things like that, save it till the end so that we can have the last 10 minutes or so where we can talk about that with Tate. As always, I'm going to talk a little bit about skill development and our Q&A and product input. I want to do that pretty quickly because we're getting into our time here. And then the next session is for owners, called Understanding Your Agency, and that's going to be on the 29th of June. So 2 weeks from now, same bat time, same bat channel. We're going to be looking at basically the same thing as today, but from an owner's perspective. So what dashboards would an owner want to see? What reports would an owner want to see? How can an owner or perhaps a creative director type role make sure that everything is going well? As usual, befriend us on Facebook, tweet us on Twitter, check out our Pinterest board, connect with us on LinkedIn, watch our YouTube videos, and do whatever this thing here is telling you to do. I find it kind of funny that I almost make a point to not learn what an RSS feed is, just so that people can laugh at me when I'm doing these webinars. All right, so without further ado, let's get started here. Now, a few things that I want to mention really quickly. When you are on your dashboard of the system, as always, up at the top right, you're going to see a little question mark. Here you have access to the training site. You have access to a new tab called Webinars. That's going to bring you directly to the sign-up page for all the webinars and links to the recordings of previous webinars. So anything webinars, this is where you want to go. This is also where you have the feature requests area. Now this is going to bring you to a login page. You do need to create a login to this, and it is separate from your function point login. It's asking for an email address, and then you'll create a password and you can sign up. And this is where you can submit requests from the product team for future development or changes or modifications, and they're really good at collecting those and following up, and you can see other requests that other people have made, and you can actually even upvote requests that you like that other people have made. So I know a couple clients of mine have asked their whole agency to log in and upvote things. So there's some cool interaction going on in there. Okay, so let's jump in here. So the first thing that we're going to be taking a look at is the concept of assigning staff to jobs and managing those jobs. So I'll make sure my screen is all good here. Yes, it is. So I actually have a, there we go. So I actually have an estimate that I've created that I'm going to be using to open up a new job and talk about this concept. So I'm going to navigate to that estimate. It's an estimate called Summer Pickup Sale Brochure. A few things that I want to mention. Important items that you should make sure that your team is adhering to. When opening up new jobs, of course, as everyone knows, you start with an estimate or scope of work structure. I highly, highly recommend that you are entering in due dates whenever possible, even if it's not going to be exact and it might change, or you're not sure exactly what it's going to be. Enter a due date whenever you can. I see a lot of systems with a lot of jobs with no due dates on them, and that can limit some of the functionality and other aspects of the system. So, I know it seems simple, but I see that missing a lot. So I highly recommend you fill that in. I also highly recommend you fill in the category for how you intend to build a job. So just a couple PSAs on that. Now, this job has service structure where we can see our services. In a little bit, we're going to see how these become our tasks in one example that we'll look at. So up at the top, I'm going to choose here to add job. Now, in this scenario that I'm talking about, we want to look at the concept of assigning staff to work so that they know what they're supposed to be working on, you know what they're working on, you know when those things are due, and they can see a list of things that they should be tracking against and when those items are coming up. A very, very simple way to do this, if you're not wanting to get into the schedules module or you don't need to in a certain circumstance, is once you open up the job, you can click on the Contacts button, select it here, or you can just select the Contacts tab. And you're going to notice, the AE, so whoever the AE was on the estimate that was opened up, as well as client contact, and that's actually something I probably should have added in. So if you selected a client on the estimate, and here you can choose to manage your job contacts. Once you select that, you're going to be able to see a list of all of your staff. So I can go through and see, okay, well, I want, Amanda working on this from a design standpoint. I'm going to get Jeremy for writing the copy. I want Brock liaisoning with the clients. I'm going to be involved in this, and Daniel as well, the creative director, is going to be involved as well. We can add in our contact clients. We can also even add in third parties. So if I know who the printer is going to be, I might look up that printer. So I know I'm working with Starboard Custom Printing. So in fact, I'm just going to type in the word printing and maybe even look at all of my print vendors. And I can then see the different print companies I work with, the contacts for them, add one in here. And if there's even another vendor or freelancer or contractor that we're working with, I can add them in as well. And you'll notice the participants list is growing. So this is very useful for then assigning staff to the job, and this functionality flows into a few other areas. It's going to help with the custom dashboards that we're going to look at later. Very, very useful and important if you want to be able to have those working for individual staff. It's also highly searchable, and that's what we're going to look at right now. We're going to take a look at that, and I'm going to circle back with Daniel and see if there's any questions before we jump into the actual schedule. So to give you an example of that, and we're going to look at some dashboard stuff in a little bit. by selecting individuals to be a contact on a job, there's some interesting things you can do. I could do a job find and say, I want to see all of the jobs where, Mark Wilson is a contact, and I want to see all of the jobs that are due between, today and the next, 6 months. And of course, as many of you know, you can type in a short form there, or you can type in an actual date. So maybe we'll say, November 1, and it'll fill in a date for you. 3 dots equals a range. And then I'm going to select to find active. This is then showing me a list of all the jobs that myself, in this case, Mark Wilson, is working on or is involved with. So we have 16 jobs that are currently on the go. They're open because I selected to find active. And then I have this sorted by due date. And there's some different things that you can do. You can, of course, manage your columns from here. You can produce different reports. So it's really useful and really easy to be able to see what are all the current active jobs that this specific person is working on. When are they due? How is their budget? You can even add in hour information into here. So there's a lot of different things that you can do with that. Very useful. Anyone who's not using the schedules module but still wants to be able to assign individuals to work at the agency, that's a very effective way of doing it. Before we now get into the actual schedule aspect, Daniel, I just want to check in. Any questions that you think that we should be showing on screen at all at this time?
Hey, Mark. No questions at this point in time, but I'm sure we'll get a few questions as we go along.
Sounds good. Thanks so much. Okay, so let's jump back to that job. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to show you creating a schedule using the structure we already have in this job. Then we're going to kind of work in that schedule a little bit and work within that new schedule grid. Then we're actually going to get rid of it. I'm going to load up one that has more data so that we can look at the Gantt chart and see a finished product so that you're not kind of watching me filling in dates for 15 minutes here. And then we're going to talk about some other workflows relating to schedules and different orders and that you might be doing things in the system. So we've opened up a job, just opened up, brand new, and we want to go ahead and add a schedule. So from the jobs details page, I'm going to choose to add a schedule. And it's going to ask me, do you want to use the current estimate services as a template? And in this example, that's what we're going to do. We might use a different template, but in this case, we're going to use the service structure. I'm also going to include my external expenses. I have some printing and some photography, and I want to be able to schedule when those events are occurring. Submit that, and that's going to bring us into our schedule details page. Now, right away, this is going to drop you into the new schedule grid view. So this is, pretty recently released, and it's very easy to work with. What you're going to see is you're going to see the task itself. There's a task ID there. You're going to see the description. Now, the description in this case came from the estimate. You're going to see the service that it's related to in the service group, and you can then start going ahead and building out your schedule. Now, all of this is editable just by selecting the fields. So I can select one of the fields here, and it's going to open up. And part of this new functionality, when you look at these fields, is they're a little bit easier to work with. So if I have a long list of staff, but I know that I want Thomas working on this, this sketches and roughs work, I might just start typing in Thomas, and you'll notice it narrows it down for me. Select the individual that fills in, and then I can enter my start date. We'll say that I wanted to start. What's today? Today is the 14th, I think. So we'll say the 14th of June. You'll notice it just fills in. Of course, you can always select the calendar if you prefer. So some people prefer to type in the dates, others prefer to select the calendar. And we'll say that the 14th was yesterday, but we'll say that Thomas is going to start that yesterday and he's going to finish the work by Monday. And then you'll notice that we have the estimated hours as well. We have the status, which I'm going to talk about in just a minute because we're going to look at that using bulk edits. And then some other fields like priority and milestone. Everything is in one view. You don't need to jump back and forth between outline and manage and full anymore. It's all right here and available for you. You can simply just click the field, select what you want, and either save changes, or if you happen to just click away, it's just going to save it for you. So it just lets you know that everything saves automatically, but you can, of course, select Save Changes if you prefer. Now, a very common question is, how would I break things down into multiple tasks? So I have this design task, and I need this done by multiple individuals, and they're going to be designing, the different, maybe the interior and the exterior of, in this case, the brochure for the sales event. It's really easy in this case. It's been improved. All you need to do is click on this button here, which is a button that's copying this task. If I select it, it's going to copy that task, and you'll notice how it opens up the name right away, and then I'm just typing in the details if I want to adjust the name. Maybe I'll adjust this one as well. Pretty rudimentary stuff. And then I can adjust the description if I want to. But it's very important to note that all of the task data is copied, including the estimated hours. So 30 hours were estimated for design. So now that I have 2, I really need to go in there and split that time up to make sure that I'm not double booking the time that we budgeted on the estimate. I can then choose the individuals that I'm assigning the work to and enter my dates. Now what we're going to do now is we're going to actually get rid of this schedule. We're going to pop in one that has a lot more data filled in, because there's other things that I want to talk about around common questions. Client-related deliverables, client approvals, milestones, and also some other useful functionality like tags. So I want to show off some cool stuff here, but I don't want to take the time to fill this all out manually. So I'm going to get rid of the schedule. We're going to pop in one that has all that detail already entered in, and that'll allow us to talk a little bit about templates as well. Before I do that, Daniel, I just want to check in anything that you think that I should be addressing as far as questions at this time?
No, seems to all be going good, so no questions at this stage that needed.
Sounds good. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose to delete this schedule. So you'll notice up at the top it's asking me, what actions do I want to take. I'm going to delete the schedule and all of its tasks, and it's now gone. I'm going to jump back to the job. From the job details page, I'm going to add the schedule again. And I'm going to choose a template. I'm going to choose this one called Standard 3-Page Brochure, select it, and submit. Now that's going to bring me to the schedule details page, and all the data is going to be filled in. There's 2 things I want to mention. One is the schedule template and the structure of the estimate for the job match up exactly. They do it because I created it that way to make it easy on myself. But that might not be the case. In fact, it might often not be the case where the structure of your schedule matches the service structure of your estimate exactly. And don't worry, I'm going to make sure to show you the ramifications of that in just a second. But in this case, I've popped in a schedule template that happens to have services that are exactly what I have in my estimate. So everything filled in automatically, everything's looking really good, there's no problems here, all the dates are filled in as well. First thing I want to mention is that before we start getting into some of the tag items and things like that, is that the dates are old. So you'll notice that I have this starting on the 13th of April. It's an old schedule template, so I need to update this. The way that I'm going to update the entire schedule in bulk is up at the top, there's a button that says Bulk Edit. Now when you select this, it's going to adjust the view that you're in. So when you select Bulk Edit, it's going to open up into the older style schedule view. All the fields are the same, the order's the same, the data's the same, everything's the same, except what this allows you to do is things like adjusting dates. Now I'm going to adjust the entire schedule. I'm not going to select specific tasks to move. I'm going to move the whole thing. So I don't need to select any of them, I just select Adjust Dates. Now I'm going to adjust it from the start of the schedule, but you could also adjust it from the end. So if you need to have a project ending at a certain time and you want to know, well, when would I need to start it by in order to get it done, you could adjust it from the end of the schedule. I'm going to adjust it from the start, and we'll put that to just use today. We don't work Saturday or Sunday, so we'll leave those days off. Select Adjust Dates, and it moves everything off accordingly. So it's kept the same amount of time between the task days, the due dates and the start dates. It's avoided weekends. We're going to select Save and Finish. And it's going to bring us right back into our schedule grid. So that's how you can make bulk edits. So we're going to look at that bulk edit in just a minute, because there's something that I'm going to recommend as a standard process you're going to want to take when creating schedules using any style or format using the bulk edit, and that's things like status changes and priority changes. But as we scroll down here, you'll notice that there's a few items that have tags and also do not have start dates. So let's just talk about that for a little bit. So as we go down, you'll notice we have the research and the sketching, and then we have the design of the cover and the interior. There's descriptions as to what to do. The staff haven't filled in yet because they didn't fill in for my template, so I'd go ahead and assign those. But then I also have tasks that have no start date. It's just an end date. And I've also added tags. I've added tags for client related, and I've added tags for vendor related. And that's really useful to see, what is a list of just the client related tasks, the client related deliverables. So you could add in tags, very easily. Just by selecting this, it's going to show you a list of all the tags you've already used, or you can choose to add a new one. So, if I want to put something, related to some sort of, freelancer or contractor liaison, then I could add that. If I want to have a tag just so that it's jumping out saying, use your previous brand guidelines. So I'm going to call that use brand guidelines, so that people know, hey, sorry, I clicked off of it. My apologies. Let's call it use brand guidelines. So you'll notice it's asking me, do I want to use this new tag? Yes, I do. And we'll save it. And I've now added a new tag to that task. And I'm going to show you how these tags can be really useful in just a minute. And then an item that just has an end date is going to show up differently as well, because it doesn't have a start and an end. These are usually key events. So if there's some sort of hard date that something is occurring, for example, the photographer might be on site for maybe 2 days. It looks like they're going to be on site for a Friday and then also a Monday. But the printing is going to be happening on a hard date. That's going to be the 12th of July. So it's just a hard date, and these are both vendor-related tasks. So we have our schedule filled in. One thing I want to do really quickly here is I want to assign some staff. So I'm just going to choose some individuals for my tasks here. We'll say Amanda's going to be doing the research and the sketches. The design is then going to be done by Brittany and by Amanda as well. The client approval, I want let's say my creative director is going to be responsible for getting this. So it's going to be Daniel. The copywriting is going to be done by our copywriter. It's Jeremy. So I'm going to type in his name, select Jeremy. Client approval is also going to be the responsibility of the creative director. That's Daniel. And then the production, I want this done by Brock. He works with the vendors, so that's liaisoning with the vendors to get the photography and the printing done. And then Brock's going to be working on those items as well to make sure that their due dates are hit with the vendor-related tasks. So I have my staff. So we have this schedule. It's all filled out. We have dates. We have tags. We have hard dates. And what I'm going to do from here is up at the top right, you're going to see a button that says Gantt View. So when I select this, it's going to bring us into the Gantt view of the schedule. There's a few things that you're going to see here, and I just want to check in. Let's see if there's any questions that we should be answering on screen. Looks like we might have a couple. Daniel, how are we doing here?
Yeah, we do have a couple of questions. So we've got a question in from Darlene. First question is, why do assigned people on the schedule not show up under contacts related to the project on the project overview page?
Yeah, that's a good question. So when you look at the concept of assigning contacts to a job and then also assigning tasks to individuals, it's kind of two different layers of functionality. So, you know, the first thing that we looked at was assigning contacts to jobs. And, you know, that was the idea of us, you know, selecting the individuals that are working on those jobs. And now we're actually in the schedule, and we're looking at the assignment of those tasks. So, you know, you might have, you know, 3 kind of key contacts on the job. And this is especially true for a larger agency. But you might have, you know, 10 or 15 or more, 20, who knows how many individuals that you're assigning individual tasks to, but they may not necessarily be contacts on the job. The job's not going to show up in their My List. They're not, you know, directly responsible for the job. They're just responsible for their portion. The two things are not mutually exclusive, but there's a little bit of a difference if you think about, you know, the idea of, okay, well, maybe I'm not really using schedules or tasks for a lot in the system, but I still need to assign the work. So I'm going to assign it to the job level. Whereas if you are using schedules and tasks, then looking at the tasks themselves from the job, which we'll see in a second, is a better way of getting an understanding of the individuals that are working on those deliverables. So there's a slight difference there, but that's a good question. Daniel, was there any others that we should address at this time?
Yeah, we do have a couple more. So with regards to tags, when a tag is created, will it become available for all schedules going forward, or only just the one that you've created the tags in, or the schedule you've created the tags in?
Great question. That tag will then become available for all future schedules. So it's the idea of, you know, you can create new tags, but it's better to cycle through the existing ones before you start creating new ones. It's actually much more user-friendly to use existing ones. You just select it. So it will be available for future use. That's a good question. And actually, I want to show really quickly, I'm not going to move away from the Gantt, but I am going to do this in a separate tab. I want to show really quickly one of the uses of the tags here, just so we can get a check mark on that and then go back to the Gantt. When you are on a job details page, if you look at the schedule tab, this is a really, really nice view to be able to see what's going on. So you're looking at the job details page, you select the schedules tab, and I can then narrow this down for all the tags that are specific to this schedule. So, you know, if I land on the job and I want to see, okay, well, where are we in our client-related items? How are we doing on our client approvals? Oh, I thought we had a couple there. I'm going to jump back and forth here and see what's going on. Looks like I might have a bit of an issue with those tag items. I was playing with this yesterday, so I'm not really sure why it's not showing up. Maybe a little bit later, give me some insight on that one. But so I apologize about that. But typically, what would happen is it would then filter so that you're just seeing the tasks that are related to those tags. I'm going to try it one more time. So you'll notice we have our tagged items here. So it looks like there might be just a bit of an issue with that filter, but it is pretty useful. I was playing around with it yesterday. It will then filter it to just show the tasks that meet that tag criteria. So it's a quick way from the job details page to be able to play around with that. So we'll take a look at that and figure out why that's not filtering for me.
We do have a couple of other questions there, Mark. So one coming in again from Darlene asking, are subtasks possible or in the future plan?
Yeah, good question. So, you know, anyone who is a long-term user of Function Point will probably recall that the system used to allow you to have an unlimited amount of subtasks. The problem was that there wasn't really a lot of functionality behind it. You could create subtasks of subtasks of subtasks, but really only the bottom child item was a tangible task that you could actually work with. Everything else was just kind of folders in which they fit in, and there wasn't really a lot of functionality behind it. So we've actually flattened that schedule out so that now there's two types of line items here. There are task groups, so you know, creative services is a task group, and then there are tasks beneath that group. And there are other ways of kind of looking at you know, how would subtasks, or you know, the concept of a subgroup of tasks being related to something. And a perfect example of that is actually the tags. So that when you're looking at, let's jump back to the grid view. So that when you're looking at, you know, your tasks, and this would have been a bit better if that filter was working for me, but you can filter it and see, okay, well, I want to look at everything that is, you can almost look at it as like a sub item of client related. So tags are supposed to be one way of accommodating that without having the system kind of have an unlimited parent-child relationship without a whole lot of functionality behind it. And then when we look at the Gantt chart, you'll notice here that parent-child relationship between the task group and the tasks themselves is very apparent. So we have our creative services task group going from the 15th of June to the 12th of July, and then all of the items then beneath that are occurring. And something that might jump out at you right away is the fact that some of these have start dates and end dates, whereas others are just saying due. The items that are just saying due are telling you, hey, this item is happening on the 30th of June. It's the client approval on designs, and it's being worked on by Daniel. And then we have the copywriting, of course, being worked on by our copywriter, Jeremy, and has a start and an end date. But then there's an approval on the copy that is then happening on the 5th of July. And we can see that it's Daniel's responsibility to take that copy from Jeremy, get it to the client, get approval on it, mark this task as completed, and then we can then go into production. And something we'll see a little bit in the preview is how you can actually look at that dependency structure so that you can understand what is dependent upon the previous items. And then it's showing us our other tasks that are related to this task group. This is a very kind of traditional waterfall schedule, but of course, as if you shift dates and move things around, it'll adjust, and as you add in more detail, you'll get more scrolling occurring here as well. Daniel, I just want to check in. I think we have another one to address.
Yeah, we do. Just on that topic of adjusting dates, we do have a question which does tend to come up from time to time, coming in from Shauna. She's asking, if your deadlines change in the middle of a job, can you adjust the dates in bulk?
Yeah, so let's take a look at that. So let's say that we're getting down to, and you know what I'm going to do here? I'm going to show two things related to bulk edits because there's another item that I want to touch on. So we're going to take a look at this bulk edit question, adjusting dates. We're also going to bulk edit adjust the status. We're then going to submit that schedule because we need to kind of move on. I need to show some of the task management items as well, and then we're going to swing back and make sure that we check in with Tate as we get to the kind of the last 10 minutes. So we have our schedule, we've looked at it, and it all looks good. There's two things I want to do. I want to put all of these into an assigned state, and I want to actually move something off. Let's say that we find out that the interior design portion, design the interior, can't be done for another week. So that's going to move, and of course everything else is going to move as well. That's related, below that. So we're going to take a look at that too. The way that we're going to do this is up at the top, we're going to select bulk edit. So oftentimes you'll either be looking at the Gantt view and reviewing your schedule, or you'll be in the grid view and creating it. And all the tasks are going to be in a draft status to start. So a really easy way to put that into assign would be to jump into bulk edit. And then we're going to change the status from draft on every task to assigned. We're going to put it right into progress if we want. It adjusts all the tasks. We're going to hit save and continue. And we've also determined that the task of the design interior needs to be moved. So we're going to select that. And then we're going to select all the tasks below it in that group. And we're going to select all of the tasks within the expenses group. So everything that's being affected, the earliest date's the 22nd of June. And when I adjust those dates, so just hit the adjust dates button, we're going to move that. You'll notice 22nd of June pops right in because that's the earliest task. And we're going to move that, let's say, to the 29th. We'll just move it by a week, hit adjust dates, and then everything else moved along accordingly. So that when we save and finish, we can actually get a really nice visual representation of this in our Gantt view so that we're not having to look and read dates and try to understand it. Everything just moved along accordingly. These two items used to be lined up together. Now one's been pushed off and everything else has been pushed off as well. We now have the printing happening on the 19th of July instead of the 12th. So that's how you move the entire schedule. Now what we need to do here is we need to then take a look at, and I just want to make a quick comment. I wanted to show a little bit more on on some different ways of creating schedules, either opening up a job from a schedule template, or perhaps adding in a schedule to an existing job that doesn't have the same service structure. But I think for the sake of time, I think we're going to skip over that because it's been covered in other webinars and other videos. And what I want to show instead is something there's usually a lot more questions on. People are really looking for ways to get an understanding of what's going on in the agency. How can I see some dashboards that help me to understand where my tasks are, where my team is at? How can I understand what they're working on and when those things are due? What's going on and how how are we doing on everything? So I want to get into that content next because I find there's a lot more questions on that. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to jump back to our dashboard. Now this is the default dashboard that's everyone gets upon the first time logging in the system. But I want to show a couple others. So I'm going to hover over the little speedometer and I'm going to select Customize Dashboards. I'm going to create a new dashboard. I'm going to call this Traffic 1. And the structure that I'm going to select is I want 2 horizontal bars and then 2 individual tiles. So this is the one I want right here. Up at the top left, I want the Jobs by Company summary. And right beside it, I want the job summary. Below that, I want tasks and to-dos. And right beside that, I want the task time summary. I'm then going to choose Save and Continue. I'm going to add in one more. I'm going to add a new dashboard, and I'm going to give a lot more screen real estate to the tasks panel. So I'm going to select this item here, and we're going to select tasks and to-dos. Perhaps then we'll select jobs on the bottom, and then we're going to choose, let's say, this one I didn't really think of, so it doesn't really matter, but we'll select maybe a task time summary as well, and save and close. Oh, we're going to call this Traffic 2. So now when we hover over our speedometer, we're going to see those 2 different dashboards. Let's look at Traffic 1 because I really like this structure, and there's a lot of useful things that you can do with this. First of all, when you look at the Jobs by Company summary, this by default is going to show you, I believe it's all jobs. Actually, it might show you my jobs by default. But what this is showing me here is all jobs. And then there's some options for the budget percentage. We'll talk about that in a second. But with all of these tiles, there's options to edit the data, and right away you're going to want to look at each one and make sure you're getting what you want. So for example, I can choose a custom selection where you're choosing custom clients, or I can select my jobs. And when I select my jobs, that is selecting all the jobs that I am a contact on. So that's showing you another use of adding those job contacts. And this is showing me the clients, the top 5 clients that my jobs live under, and how many for each. Great Atlantic Insurance has 10 jobs, 8 of those are within budget, and 2 of those are over 80% of budget. I have 2 jobs for Safeway that are over budget completely. So that helps me to understand where my jobs are in budget for my top 5 clients. My job summary, which you can also narrow it down to just yours or all jobs, is telling me that we have 48 jobs open, 6 are due in the next 7 days, and 4 are overdue. Of that, 19 of them, which is 10%, are over budget. I'm then getting very similar information in the task time summary. And I could, for example, choose to filter this by, assigned by me or to me, all tasks that are going on, I'll leave it by me. So there are currently 80 open tasks in the system that have assigned by me. I'm a traffic manager in this system. 25 of them are due in the next 7 days, 10 of them are overdue, and 4%, which equals 3 tasks, are over budget. Now, all this information is interactive. That makes it very useful. If I want to know, what are the tasks that are coming up, or better yet, what are the ones that are overdue, I can select this, and it's going to bring me to a list of the 10 tasks that are overdue. From here, I can customize my columns, produce some different reports or exports, and a variety of different things that I can, different actions I can take with those. So I really like this style of dashboard. I find these to be very useful tiles, so I recommend checking them out. But another useful tile is having the tasks panel cover the entire screen real estate. So from left to right, the entire lateral bar. What this allows you to do is have a much more detailed custom selection for those tasks. I can say, for example, what's my design team working on? So I can select my design team, and I'm seeing all the tasks that are assigned to my design team. So, there's 51 of them. But perhaps I'm only interested in a specific client. I'm interested in my client, Great Atlantic Insurance. So I'm going to type in the client code, GAD, or I could type in their full name. And now I'm seeing a list of all the tasks assigned to my design team for my client, Great Atlantic Insurance. It's sorted by due date. Maybe I'm actually going to clear that sort. I want to sort it by budget. So, here's one that hasn't been worked on much, or maybe we'll put it the other way. Here's one that's 90% of budget. It's a high priority as well. We can see the task, the description, the job it's for, who it's assigned by and to, the due dates, budgeted in actual hours. This is a very, very useful tile. I highly recommend including it in one of your dashboards. There's a lot more functionality around filtering. You can put in descriptions. You can choose from a variety of different statuses and types, milestones, and then also adjust some of these other filter options as well. One other thing I want to show, and Daniel, I do want to check in with you. Any questions that you think that we should address at this time?
We do have a question here with regards to printing out the tasks and to-dos lists. What's sort of the best practice with regards to generating a document on that?
Yeah, for sure. So let's say, for example, we're going to want some sort of task report. I want to see, what are the tasks that are coming up that are due in the next, week and a bit, let's say the next 2 weeks, and, what's going on with them. So I might do a task find. And I'm going to say, I want to see all the tasks that are, well, let's just put it a due date range, that are due between today and let's just say June 24th. So not this Friday, but next Friday. And I'm going to select Find Active. Now I can narrow this down by client, by staff, assign to or by, or any other variables. I'm going to select Find Active in this case. And that's bringing me to a list of those tasks. Now, when I look at this information, some of this might not be relevant to me, or some of it I don't like, or I want to add in other information. So I can choose to manage columns and add or subtract information that I need or don't need. So I'm going to take out the edit button. I'm going to, this to field is including initials. I don't like initials. I want the full name, so I'm going to take that out, but I'm going to add in the to name. And let's say I'll take out the priority because I don't really need that right now. I want the status, so we'll leave that in there. I don't need due time. I just want the date. And then maybe we'll take out the service as well. So once I have the information that I want, and in fact, one other thing is I want the description. I can then sort those in the manner that I need. Maybe we'll get rid of by. And then once I have the information that I want in the order that I've specified, put to over here. I can then save that, and I have my custom information. From there, I can choose to produce a PDF, or I can export the data. And it's giving me a PDF of the tasks in the order I specified with the columns that I wanted, with all the detail that is included in those columns. All right, so I know that we're moving pretty fast there. I do want to make sure that we give Tate an opportunity here to show his stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the presenter over to Tate. He's going to take us through a few items, and then we'll see. We still have pretty much everyone still on the webinar. So what we're going to do is we're going to see, after Tate goes through his items, if how many people are still on. We might cover some additional questions. So I think there was a few others, and then see if there's any other content anyone would like to review. I'm more than happy to stay on for a few minutes if people would like. And yeah, so if you have any questions about what Tate is showing, by all means, continue to please type that into the question box, and we'll address those in the best way that we can. Tate, are you still on the line? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. I'm just going to change the presenter to yourself. Okay, you should be able to go ahead at any time.
Alrighty. Okay. All right, so I'm not going to take too much time. I just wanted to show a few upcoming things that that are relating to schedules. One of the things I will sort of mention is that between now and the end of September, we have a pretty strong focus on both enhancements to the existing grid that we've fairly recently launched, as well as the Gantt views, and our focus is really on trying to make scheduling much simpler and quicker for traffic managers. So the first thing I just wanted to show, and this is just a staging server that I have access to. I recreated Mark's schedule that he was going through with you guys, and just showed you what it's going to look like. We will be releasing this within the next couple of weeks or so. It's actually just finished production in this first iteration, and we're going through QA testing on it right now. So what the first iteration is going to do with dependencies is it's going to add predecessor dependencies into tasks and Gantt View and the current Gantt View, and then we're going to move forward from there. So the first piece that you're going to see within the next couple of months within the next couple of weeks, is going to be adding the ability within the Gantt to see lines connecting tasks that are related to one another. When you click into one of the tasks in our existing view, you're going to notice that there's a new widget in the task itself called dependencies, and within that dependency, or within that the basic view of the task, you'll be able to add dependencies or predecessors within it that are on that schedule, and create links to existing tasks within the schedule. So like I said, that's coming up within the next couple of weeks, giving you a clear way to start linking items together that need to be completed. So in Mark's example, I started linking items together. So sketching the roughs obviously need to be done before designing the cover and the interior, and designing the interior. The client approval on the designs, which is the milestone, is dependent on that design that was put forth. So so this piece is coming. I wanted to, and I'm just going to talk really quickly about some other upcoming items. So items that we're working on right now that are in development are predecessor tasks, which I just showed you, the first iteration of that. We're making a bunch of enhancements to the grid based on feedback that we've been getting in from people using it. For the accountants in the crowd, we're launching a new version of FP Accountant for desktop. So it'll be a new application that will be upgraded. We will be adding a couple of common requests on the Gantt view, which are a visual indicator of today's date, as well as a monthly view, so the ability of zooming out and looking at it from a higher level. We're also well underway working through what we're currently calling meeting tasks. And what meeting tasks are is the ability to add multiple people to a task. The example would be if you have a 1-hour meeting and 4 people are going to be attending that meeting, you'd be able to create one meeting task for an hour, add 4 people to it, and you'll have 4 hours worth of tasks and 4 people that'll be on that task. And then we're also working on the interactive Gantt piece, and this piece here is one of the components that'll also make predecessors simpler to use, because our goal will be that you'll be able to actually drag the lines into place. So things that are dependent upon one another, you'll be able to drag dates back and forth and make adjustments on here. So one of the things I will mention is that a lot of the date adjustment type widgets that we have in the current bulk edit view, which is one of our older views, we're working towards making the Gantt view be the place that you make date-related changes, because it makes it a lot easier to see it within there. I will go really quickly and just show this meeting task, and I will just say that the meeting task isn't necessarily going to be the name of it. That's just what we're calling it for the time being. But this is just an example within a schedule of what you'll be able to do. So you'll be able to add a new task type called meeting. You'll be able to add multiple staff to it. In this case, there are 3 staff on this particular meeting, which is an hour long, which makes it 3 hours total. So we're working through that to be able to add multiple people on tasks. So I tried to go through that really quickly. Daniel, Mark, are there any questions that are coming through, or any items that you want me to?
There was one question around. Sorry, Dan, I'm hijacking your question thing here. There was one question around how visible dependencies will be to other staff people. So will other individuals, will the staff be able to see the dependency structure?
For the first release of it, the first iteration of it, you'll be able to see dependencies in the two places that I showed you, which is on the task itself and on the Gantt chart. So if a person has been given a task and it's dependent on another task, when they drill into that task, they will be able to see the dependencies here.
Awesome.
We will be working more towards making that much more visible and much more of a collaboration event that can happen as we work through schedules.
Great. I think that's all we got. Daniel, anything else that you wanted to add to this topic before we kind of jump back? There was I think one other, so there's a request to show some of the stuff again around the PDF printouts. Anything else that you wanted to add or talk about relating to what Tate's been showing?
Not at this stage. I mean, everything looks good. It's just a matter of finalizing a couple of the remaining questions that we have, which we can do shortly.
One of the things I just wanted to add in at the end here is that we are in the process. Everything that I'm talking about right now is we're in different stages of development on that, as well as some other elements that relate to schedules. So what I would recommend for those of you that have done testing with myself or my team, thank you very much. If you're interested in doing more, please let us know. If you've never done any tests with us, please send an email to product@functionpoint.com. We're always every day we're testing new ideas, new concepts, new ways of solving problems with clients as we work through the discovery phase on new solutions and new features that we're adding into the system. So please always, or please send an email to us if you're interested in doing that in the coming months.
Yeah, so I just launched a poll. I actually didn't even mean to launch it at that point. I clicked launch poll and it just kind of popped up. So I just launched a poll, just asking everyone just to provide, just let us know if you found the webinar valuable. Of course, any feedback that you do have for the webinar series or any requests for future webinars, please do feel free to send them to success@functionpoint.com. Again, that's success@functionpoint.com. And then, as Tate was mentioning, he is giving the offer for anyone who wants to be, a tester for these, these new features that are being tested. Email. Sorry, did I get that wrong? Tate, is that what you were saying?
No, sorry, I think I just coughed.
Oh, okay. I thought you were like, no, that's not what I said at all. Yeah, so the email was product@functionpoint.com.
Awesome.
All right. Yeah, so we got about 2 minutes here. There was a question. I'm going to close. It looks like we have 89% of people have filled out that poll. So everyone, thank you. I appreciate you taking the time to do that. I'm going to close it down in just a second here. Well, it looks like we're almost at 100%. We're at 96%, 97%, 99%. All right, I'm going to close it at 100%. All right, sweet. Everyone filled that out. So I really appreciate that. Thank you very much. Looks like most people got some pretty good value out of that. So I really appreciate everyone taking the time to fill that out. So I'm going to change the presenter back to myself. Okay, so I just want to cover the one question that was still outstanding was how to produce a PDF of that task list. So any PDF that you want to produce needs to be from a find. So if you're doing a find and you're putting in data, you're putting in date ranges, you're searching by statuses or staff or companies or any other information. You can then, of course, choose to customize those columns and then produce a PDF of your findings, whether it's tasks or jobs or expenses or timesheets, whatever it might be. You can produce a PDF of that and then save that or print it or whatever you want to do. All right, so I really appreciate everyone's time today. Thank you all for joining the webinar. We had almost 100% attend all the way through, so I really appreciate everyone sticking on. Now, as I mentioned, this is being recorded, so it'll be up on the webinars page, which you can access right via the question mark here, so you can get into the webinars and see the recordings there. As I always say, 2 weeks from today, we're going to be doing another webinar, so same bat time, same bat channel. It's going to be all for the owners, and we'll be talking about more of kind of the financial aspects of the system, reporting, additional dashboards that you'd want to take a look at. So I highly recommend that anyone that, not necessarily just the owners, but let's say perhaps a creative director or anybody in that similar type of position, it would be very valuable for you. So I do recommend you checking it out. And yeah, thanks everyone again, and have yourselves a great rest of your Wednesday. I think there was a couple questions that we weren't able to answer today. They're a bit more specific, so we'll make sure to follow up via email and provide answers to those questions. All right, on that note, thanks everyone. Thanks Tate. Thanks Daniel for joining in today, and we will see everyone again in 2 weeks' time.
Thanks everyone.
Thank you.